Does mind create or reflect reality? Buddhism. Answer. Have you ever stopped to really consider what's going on inside your head? Not just the to-do lists or the worries, but the very way you experience. Well, everything. It's a question that's puzzled thinkers for centuries. And it's at the heart of what we're talking about today. We are going to look at a Buddhist perspective, but not only. We'll also see what modern neuroscience has to say on the topic. Part 1. What is our mind? The Buddhist teachings start with a profound statement. In the Dhammapada, one of the most well-known collections of the Buddha's sayings, says, "Mind is the forerunner of all states. Mind is their chief. They are all mind-made." It is like saying, mind isn't just part of the picture, it's the main ingredient. All states are mind-wrought. Now, understanding what mind really means in this context is really important. In Buddhism, this word, citta, in the original language, isn't just about your intellect or your ability to reason. It's much bigger than that. It is the totality of our mental activity. Citta includes your thoughts, sure, but also your emotions, your sensations, even your basic awareness of being alive. It's the whole package. Interestingly, modern neuroscience is coming to similar conclusions, though from a very different angle. Dr. Andrew Huberman, a neuroscientist, explains that our brains aren't just passive cameras, simply recording reality. He says that they don't passively receive reality. Instead, our brains actively construct our experience. The brain takes sensory input, what we see, hear, touch, and combines it with our past experiences and our expectations. Another neuroscientist, Dr. Chris Frith, author of Making Up the Mind, How the Brain Creates Our Mental World, reinforces this point. He says that a significant portion of what we think of as seeing is actually our brain's internal model of the world. Our brain fills in gaps and makes predictions, all based on what it's learned before. To illustrate, consider a story from the Buddha's time. There was a man named Bahiya. He was on a spiritual search, and he eventually sought out the Buddha. The Buddha, knowing Bahiya's capacity for understanding, gave him a very direct instruction. He told Bahiya to see only the seen, hear only the heard. What does this mean? It's about experiencing things directly, without the usual mental commentary and interpretation that we add on top. It means that when there's a sight, just register the visual information. When there's a sound, just hear the sound. Don't start thinking, "Oh, that's a bird," or "That's a pleasant sound," or "I wonder where that's coming from." It's about unfiltering our perception, removing the filters of the mind, the thoughts, judgments, and preconceptions, to see things as they truly are, in their raw, unedited form. Bahiya was able to take this instruction to heart, and he achieved profound realization very quickly. It shows the power of unfiltering our perception. So, how can we start to see this mind-made nature of reality for ourselves? Here's a simple practice, a mindfulness exercise, that you can try right now. Let's do a short practice together. If you can, find a quiet place where you won't be disturbed for a few moments. You can close your eyes if that helps you focus, or you can keep them softly open. Now, turn your attention to the sounds around you. Just listen. You might hear traffic, voices, the hum of a refrigerator, or maybe just the quiet rustling of the air. Whatever you hear, don't try to identify the sounds. Don't label them in your mind as car, bird, or wind. Instead, Try to notice the pure sensation of sound itself. Now here's the key. Pay attention to the space between the sounds. Notice the brief silences. And even more subtly, notice the tiny gap between the moment you hear a sound and the moment a thought about that sound arises in your mind. It might be a thought like, "What was that?" Or, "That's loud." Or it might be a judgment like, "That's a nice sound." Or, "That's annoying." The point isn't to stop those thoughts from happening. It's to notice them as separate events from the raw sensory experience of hearing. With practice, you can become more aware of this gap, this space between sensation and interpretation. You can start to see how your mind adds something to the raw data of experience. It begins to show us the process and how the mind constructs the reality. This is a first step in recognizing the active role of your mind in shaping your reality. This simple exercise hints at what the Dhammapada means when it says, "Mind is the forerunner of all states." Part 2. How does our mind create our experience? So, we've established that our minds aren't just reflecting reality like a mirror. They're actively involved in creating it. But how does this happen? What are the mechanisms? The Buddhist teachings offer a powerful insight. In the Samyutta Nikaya, another important collection of the Buddha's discourses, it says, "Whatever one frequently thinks and ponders upon, that will become the inclination of their mind." Think about that for a moment. It's saying that our habitual thoughts, the things we dwell on, actually shape the way our minds work. They create patterns, tendencies, grooves in our consciousness. This idea connects directly with modern neuroscience. Dr. Lisa Feldman Barrett, a leading researcher in the field of emotions and author of 7.5 Lessons About the Brain, describes the brain as a prediction machine. She argues that our brains aren't just reacting to the world, they're constantly anticipating it. They're building internal models, simulations, based on past experiences, and using those models to make sense of incoming sensory information. And where do these internal models come from? In large part, they're built from those habitual thoughts and patterns that the Buddha described. Our repeated thoughts and experiences become the foundation for the brain's predictions. This predictive process is how we make meaning of the world. It's how we quickly recognize a friend's face, understand a sentence, or know what to expect when we open a door. But it also means that our experience is always, to some extent, filtered through the lens of our past. Buddhism has a specific term for these filters: sankhara. Often translated as mental formations, sankharas are the underlying patterns that shape how we perceive and react. They are the result of our actions, thoughts, and feelings. Both those we consciously choose and those that happen without our full awareness. They're like the building blocks of our constructed reality, formed by our past and influencing our present. Interestingly, the world of physics also offers some intriguing perspectives on the relationship between mind and reality. The observer effect in quantum mechanics, for instance, demonstrates that the act of observation interacts with the system being observed. It's important to note, this doesn't mean that consciousness creates reality in a literal sense, but rather that there's a fundamental interconnectedness between the observer and the observed. Physicist Henry Stapp, for example, has explored these ideas in depth. He argues, and I am paraphrasing here, that quantum mechanics suggests a shift from a purely materialist view of the universe to one where consciousness plays a more integral role. He points to the fact that the choices made by an experimenter about what to observe can influence the outcome of a quantum experiment. Let's bring this back to something more tangible. Here's a simple experiment you can do to see how easily your perception can be influenced. Look at the Necker cube optical illusion. It's a simple line drawing of a cube, but it can be perceived in two different ways. You can see it as if you're looking at it from above, or as if you're looking at it from below. Focus on the cube, and you'll likely find that your perception flips back and forth between these two interpretations. What's happening here? Your brain is receiving the same visual input the whole time, just lines on a page. But your interpretation of those lines, your mental construction of the cube, is changing. This shows that your perception is not fixed. It's a dynamic process. Sankharas, those mental formations and past experiences, are at work, coloring your experience and shaping your reality. By recognizing this, we take a significant step toward understanding how our minds are not simply reflecting reality, but actively constructing it. Part 3. How can we see things more clearly? We've seen how our minds actively shape our experience, filtering reality through our past experiences, thoughts, and expectations. So, how can we move beyond these filters? How can we see things more clearly, more directly, as they truly are? Buddhist practice offers a powerful path. Mindfulness. The Satipatthana Sutta, a core text on mindfulness meditation, provides direct instructions. It emphasizes bare attention, observing experience without adding layers of judgment or interpretation. It instructs, when seeing, just see. When hearing, just hear. This isn't about suppressing thoughts or emotions. It's about noticing them as thoughts and emotions, without getting caught up in them, without letting them dictate our experience. Interestingly, neuroscience is providing insights into why mindfulness works. Dr. Richard Davidson, a neuroscientist who has extensively studied the effects of meditation, has shown that mindfulness practices can lead to a state of pure awareness. This is a state where we experience the world directly, unfiltered by our thoughts, judgments, or preconceptions. It's a sense of presence and openness, where we're simply aware of what's happening in the present moment, without adding any stories or interpretations. Dr. Judson Brewer, a neuroscientist and psychiatrist, has focused on the brain's default mode network, DMN. The DMN is a network of brain regions active when we're mind-wandering, daydreaming, or engaged in self-referential thought. Brewer's research, along with that of others like Richard Davidson, explores how mindfulness practices relate to the DMN. His work, including studies published in journals like Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, has shown that experienced meditators often exhibit decreased activity in the DMN. This change in DMN activity is thought to be associated with aspects of mindfulness and meditative experiences, including the ability to be more present and less caught up in the constant chatter of the thinking mind. However, the precise relationship between DMN activity and subjective experiences like pure awareness is complex and continues to be investigated. Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh, a globally recognized teacher of mindfulness, puts it beautifully. The mind can see things as they are only when it is free from concepts. He explains that our concepts, our labels, our mental categories, can actually distort our perception. They create a filter between us and the raw reality of the present moment. So how can we cultivate this mind free from concepts? One powerful practice is called mirror mind meditation. It's a simple but profound technique. Imagine your mind is like a mirror. A mirror simply reflects whatever is in front of it. It doesn't judge, it doesn't cling, it doesn't reject. It just reflects. In mirror mind meditation, you practice observing your thoughts, emotions, and sensations in the same way. You notice them arising, but you don't get involved. You don't judge them as good or bad, right or wrong. You simply see them as reflections in the mirror of your mind. You might notice a feeling of sadness. Instead of thinking, "I'm sad, this is terrible," you simply acknowledge, sadness is arising. You might notice a thought like, "I need to do laundry." Instead of getting caught up in planning your day, you simply note, a thought is arising. The practice is not about emptying the mind, but about changing our relationship to our thoughts and emotions. We learn to see them as passing phenomena, like clouds in the sky, rather than as solid fixed realities. This creates space, a sense of freedom and clarity. It allows us to see things more as they are, less colored by our habitual patterns of thinking and reacting. This isn't just a technique, it's a shift in perspective. It's a way of stepping back from the constant stream of mental activity and connecting with a deeper, more fundamental sense of awareness. It's a path to seeing the world and ourselves with greater clarity, wisdom, and compassion. And it all begins with that simple, yet profound practice of paying attention. Part 4. The Big Answer: Mind and Reality. We've journeyed through understanding what the mind is, how it shapes our experience, and how we can cultivate greater clarity. Now, we arrive at the central question: what is the relationship between mind and reality? Does the mind create reality, reflect it, or is it something else entirely? Buddhist philosophy, particularly the middle way teachings of Nagarjuna, offers a nuanced perspective. Nagarjuna, a foundational figure in Mahayana Buddhism, states that phenomena are neither inherently the same as nor different from the mind that perceives them. This points to an interdependent relationship. It avoids the extremes of saying that reality is solely a creation of our minds, idealism, or that it's completely independent of our minds, materialism. Mind and reality, according to the middle way, co-arise. They are intertwined, influencing each other in a continuous dance. This concept of co-arising, or interdependent origination, is central to Buddhist thought. It suggests that nothing exists in isolation, completely separate from everything else. Everything is interconnected, arising in dependence on causes and conditions. And the mind, our consciousness, is part of that interconnected web. Modern thinkers are also grappling with this intricate relationship. Dr. Francisco Varela, a neuroscientist and philosopher, and one of the authors of The Embodied Mind, described the relationship between mind and reality as a kind of dance. He spoke of enaction, a concept where mind and world are mutually constructed through ongoing interaction. Enaction suggests that the mind isn't just passively reflecting the external world, but actively participates in shaping that world through continuous interaction and feedback loops. Our actions in the world shape our perceptions, and our perceptions, in turn, shape our actions. Dr. Donald Hoffman, a cognitive scientist, offers another compelling perspective with his interface theory of perception. He uses the analogy of a computer desktop. The icons on your desktop are not the actual files and processes within the computer. They're a simplified interface, a way for you to interact with the underlying reality of the computer's hardware and software. Hoffman suggests that our perception of reality is similar. It's a species-specific interface, a way of interacting with a deeper, underlying reality that we may not directly perceive. While these perspectives, the middle way, enaction, and the interface theory differ in their details, they share a common thread. They all suggest that mind and reality are deeply interconnected, mutually influencing each other in a way that defies simple categorization. They move beyond the traditional dichotomy of subject and object, observer and observed, pointing to a more dynamic and participatory understanding of our place in the universe. So, how do we bring all of this together in a practical way? The key is mindful living. By cultivating mindfulness, by understanding the workings of our minds, we can relate to reality with greater clarity and wisdom. We can see through the filters of our conditioning, our habitual patterns, and our preconceptions. The two arrows parable from the Śūnyatā Sutta illustrates this beautifully. Imagine you're struck by an arrow. That's the first arrow, the initial pain, the unavoidable difficulty that arises in life. But then, we often add a second arrow, our mental reaction to the pain. We get angry, we resist, we judge ourselves, we spiral into negative thoughts. This second arrow is optional. It's the added suffering that comes from our mental reaction. Mindfulness helps us avoid that second arrow. It allows us to experience the first arrow, the initial pain, without adding layers of unnecessary suffering. It is crucial to acknowledge that there are different views. Materialist viewpoints, for instance, tend to reduce consciousness to brain activity, challenging the idea that mind shapes reality in any significant way. These perspectives are important to consider, and the debate continues. However, the convergence of ancient Buddhist wisdom and modern scientific inquiry offers a powerful and transformative understanding. Our minds are not passive observers of a fixed external reality. They are active participants in the ongoing creation of our experience. By cultivating mindfulness, by understanding the nature of our minds, we can step into a more empowered and compassionate way of being. We can learn to navigate the complexities of life with greater skill, reducing suffering and embracing a more authentic and meaningful existence. This isn't just a philosophical concept. It's a call to action, an invitation to awaken to the profound interconnectedness of mind and reality, and to live with greater presence, wisdom, and love. It's a journey of discovery, a path of transformation, and it begins now, with each mindful breath, each conscious moment.